Okay, so this is part two of the effects of changing dimensions proportionally notes. On the previous video, we just did some examples. We looked at what happens when one dimension is changed and how it affects the area. This time we're going to look at what happens when both are changed. So with number 6 on the previous video, we had the circle. We only changed r, and yet our area was not changed by the same scale factor. So we're kind of break this down a little bit more in this second part. So I have an example here. Again, this is the same parallelogram. It says the original dimensions are 4 centimeters and 5 centimeters. We do base times height, get 20 centimeters squared. Now, in the first example last time, I only tripled the base, right? But this time I'm going to triple both dimensions, base and height. So when I triple both, I get 12 and 15, right? Because 5 times 3 is 15, and 4 times 3 is 12. Okay? And so that gives me 180, right? 180 centimeters squared. So last time we got 60, which was 3 times 20. This time, if I divide this out, 180 divided by 20 is going to give me 9, and it says that down here, right? Notice the area is 9 times bigger, right? 9 times 20. And so if both are scaled, then the area is scaled by the number, in this case 3, squared, which gives me that 9. And so we're going to read about that down here in just a second. Okay, so it says effects of changing dimensions proportionally. So we have area, which we looked at here, and then there's also this column perimeter or circumference. So if we have a rectangle, we have length L and width W, both being multiplied by A. So A is the scale factor. Sorry, I'm writing this a little bit messy. So that's the scale factor. All right, then the perimeter will change by just A. Okay, so if the scale factor was 2, right, for example, if I said this was 2, then the perimeter will change by just 2. All right, if it's the area, though, because we're in units squared, if the original area was some number, right, and the perimeter is changed by 2, then the area will be changed by A squared, which in the case of my example 2 squared, which would be, it's changed by 4, okay? So let's just put some numbers here real quick, right? Let's say my original perimeter is 10, all right? My scale factor is 2, so that means my new perimeter would be 2 times 10, which gives me 20. If my original area was, say, I picked a bad number, I guess it could be 1 times 10, so that would make, again, let's just say my area is 10, then this would change by 2 squared times 10, which would be 4 times 10, which would be 40. Okay, so perimeter changes by the same scale factor, area changes by the scale factor squared when both dimensions are changed. All right, so let's look at an example, 2 examples, I guess 4 examples. So number 7, the side length of a square is multiplied by 6. So let's first just look at the originals, okay? So original, we want to find perimeter / circumference and area. So the original will be an area of 7 times 7, which is 49. My original perimeter would be 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 7, right? Because that's all the way around, which would be 28. All right, and then my new would be the following. So with my area, right, we're going to multiply by not just A, but A squared. So in this case, A is equal to 6. This is my scale factor. So based on the rule that we just looked at, that top column up here for area, I'm going to change my area by not just 6, but 6 squared. So I would do 6 squared times 49, which is 36 times 49. Which would give me my new area of 1764. Alright, and we can do the same thing for perimeter. Perimeter's rule is that we're just going to multiply by the scale factor. So I'll do 6 times 28, which gives me a new perimeter of 168. So the effect, right, on the area is that it changes by 6 squared, which is 36. The effect on the perimeter is it changes just by the scale factor of 6. Okay, so for number 8, we can do this as well. Let's just talk about the effects. So if both are multiplied by 1/2, so 1/2 times 4 and 1/2 times 6, if both of these are multiplied by that, then let's think about the perimeter, right? The perimeter will be multiplied by whatever my scale factor is. My scale factor is 1/2, so we're multiplying by 1/2. The area will be multiplied by whatever my scale factor is squared. So if we do 1/2 squared, that's 1/2 times 1/2. That gives me 1/4. So area is multiplied by 1/4. Okay, and those are my effects. For number 9, we have the base and height of a triangle with base 7 and height 3, both doubled. Okay, if they both doubled, my A value is 2. So perimeter is multiplied by that A value. And area, like we said, by the A value squared, so 2 squared, which gives me a change scale factor of 4. Alright, and then the very last one, a circle has radius 5 millimeters. The radius is multiplied by 4. So instead of perimeter, we have circumference. That's still the same idea, though. Okay, circumference would change the same way the perimeter does, so just by the scale factor. Alright, my scale factor here is 4. A is 4. So circumference multiplied by 4, and the area multiplied by 4 squared, which would be 16. So whatever numbers I would get from my original area, right, I would multiply it to get the new area by 4 squared. So whatever the area was times 16, give me the new area. To find the new circumference, I would just do the original circumference times the original scale factor, 4. So to kind of sum it up, really is all this stuff here, right, we just talked about. So original dimensions, perimeter changes by the scale factor, A. Area changes by the scale factor, A squared. Okay, and that's pretty much the idea for this first assignment and the notes.